time for another heat sheet here on the call up, which means you've got Aram Layton and Elijah Evans. We got prospects from every level performing as we get into the final month of the minor league season here. We're going to talk pitchers, we're going to talk hitters. We're going to start with hitters, though, right, Elijah? And again, which is the great part about this part of the season, a lot of names that we haven't touched on a ton on this show.
Yeah, it's fun. I like pulling some of these new names. Some names that are familiar for sure. We definitely got some top 100 guys, some big time bats here, but we also have a bunch of new ones that we either talked about a while ago or haven't talked about at all in some of these cases. So we'll start it off with one AAA guy, and that's Justin Crawford, who is an interesting case here because I think, you haven't really seen the impact from him as a first round pick to the extent that some maybe would have thought. Recently, definitely seeing it, man. Even just taking, for him, like since the beginning of August, it has been incredibly impressive for Justin Crawford and someone that prior to Marsh and Bader kind of getting it going here could have been a candidate for the Phillies and still could be at some point. But, in since the beginning of August, it's a 364, 414, 542 slash for Crawford. In that time, you're seeing the power tick up a little bit. You're seeing a little more impact. I think the biggest thing there is the slug jumped about 90% from where, or 90 points from where it was most of the season.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing because he's one of the guys I think has the biggest discrepancy between uh, underlying batted ball data and surface level results. Obviously, being the surface level results are stronger, the data beneath the hood points towards just some more question marks. But he's been doing it now for so long at so many different levels. It's hard to deny. But it also, I think this stretch is indicative of just even what a 5, 6, 7% cut in ground ball rate can do for a guy like him. And since August 1, he has cut that ground ball rate to 54%, which is still really high. But
Yeah.
just to put it in perspective, he was north of 60. He was at 63% before that. So when I'm looking at a guy with a 63% ground ball rate and a 31% chase rate, I'm saying, man, like, how is he going to be productive at the big league level? Guys are going to get you to get yourself out so easily, and defenses are a lot tougher, so you're not going to beat out as many ground balls and all that good stuff. But if you can even slash that by a handful of percent, you're going to see that slug jump a ton because he has flashed the ability to hit the ball pretty hard. It's just generally in the ground. So we'll see if it's something that he can extrapolate on. I mean, it's still a lot of contact on the ground. And maybe he's some sort of outlier that has one of the higher ground ball rates in baseball, but is productive. But I think, again, this stretch is just indicative of if he can cut that down by 5% over larger stretches, I think you're going to see a Justin Crawford that's slugging a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that you feel good about the defense and the speed there, right? So you are at least have probably a fourth outfielder, and the hope is that you can continue to cut the ground ball rate, add in some more impact, and he can be a piece for the Phillies. But it's good to see the at least a small sample or a month sample of him taking that step forward, and then if you take another step forward and cutting that ground ball rate even more, adding a little bit more, then you got a guy who could maybe push to being a starting outfielder.
Yeah, it's unorthodox mechanics too. So maybe it's something that as he's getting so close to the big leagues now and working more closely, like he's gonna have spring training next year where he's gonna be with the big league team. Obviously, he was before, but I mean even more entrenched with it because he's gonna have a chance to potentially make the team out of camp depending on what their big league roster is. Working with the Bryce Harpers of the world, if they bring back a Kyle Schwarber and just talk Trey Turner and talking to all those guys, because I just think there's little mechanical things that can unlock a bit more for him. But a guy that's never really faced adversity, why would he change anything? So it's a unique spot there. But the last thing on him that's really interesting is really good left on left as well. He's hitting 370 against lefties this year. So a guy that, I mean, if he's carrying his weight offensively, you mentioned the speed in the defense, like he can be an everyday player because he's not a guy that you need to shelter from lefties. At least it looks like so far in the minor leagues.
Yeah, it's still 21, right? So there's still a lot of time there for a guy who I feel like it seems like he's older because he's been, a highly regarded name for a number of years. Obviously, the lineage makes it put some pressure on him. So I
Oh
think
no,
you got time to still see it develop there, even if it's next year or later next year. He'll still be 22 late next season, right?
exactly.
The next guy up is someone who made the top 100 for the first time this past update in Jacob Reimer of the Mets organization. And the more that I look at him and the more I look at these numbers, man, this might be a top 50 guy next season. You look at the past 2.5, the past 3 weeks for Reimer, 16 game stretch where has a 301 WRC plus. He's hitting 467 and slugging 883 in the last 3 weeks for Reimer. it's been good all season. Like he's been one of the better minor league hitters this entire season. The numbers have been exactly the same in high A and then double A. And particularly the past few weeks, it's been otherworldly.
Yeah, he needed to, as so many hitters do, just a little bit of an adjustment period into Double A. And remember, he missed a lot of reps last year with injury. And then we talked about it earlier in the year, and when he got into that top 100 update, that he made some mechanical adjustments that really have him on, a course here where he looks like one of the better corner infield prospects that you got in minor league baseball right now. And now you've seen him really settle into Double A and start to produce the same things that he was producing, at the low A and high A level. Hits the living crap out of the ball, consistently hits it in the air. And we were talking about like a 35% ground ball rate over his last 30 games. And then Reimer's, I think coming along defensively, I think that's going to be the big thing to monitor with him is just how solid can the glove get at third? But he's 21 years old. He's got time. At the end of the day, whether it's third, whether it's first, whatever it's going to be, he's going to need to mash. And we're seeing him really mash. You mentioned the batting average side of things. I think that's interesting too, because, when he first got up to Double A, there was a lot of swing and miss. I think if you look at his stretch from like uh, June 25th to July 25th, he was striking out 33% of the time. And then since July 25th, he's striking out 17% of the time. So he just seems like this guy, Reimer, that's always evolving, getting acclimated, and then really excelling from there. And I mean, the other thing that stands out to me with him is you'd be hard pressed to find a pitch that's giving him trouble right now. I mean, he's having success against all pitch types.
Yeah, do you think he sticks at third? Because obviously that helps the profile there. If he's a strong offensive player, but it would be nice to have that at third as opposed to at first.
Yeah, of course, and it takes a little bit of pressure
Yeah.
off the bat. I think so. It's just a matter of like, is it okay or like
Yeah.
fringy at third, or is he a solid third baseman? And again, the reps is what I'm going to call back to because he missed 70% of the season last year, which would have been like his first real full pro season. And I think the defensive side of things is easily forgotten when we talk about missing reps.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, like, we just put up a tweet earlier today on the call it page. He's fifth of guys on the top 100 in WRC plus this
Yeah,
season.
wow, that's
This is
crazy.
after missing most of last season. He's having a ridiculously good year after a month of adjusting, less than a month of adjusting. Now he's right back to absolutely mashing. So considering the missed time, 21 years old, there's a lot to like there.
Oh yeah.
Next guy up is another top 100 guy who, we've seen really start to increase his stock here a little, and that's Charlie Condon. It's a big name, probably the biggest name we're going to talk about today, and someone who coming out of the draft last season really struggled out of the gate in minor league baseball. But recently, Condon has found his groove, and he looks like he's really kind of just figured out Double A more at this point in his career. His last 10 games, that's a small sample, but even going back further, it's been very good. But his last 10 particularly, 1234 OPS, a 237 WRC plus. You're seeing the power really show up. He's still striking out a lot, but that's kind of just going to be part of Condon's game, we think. But he's been really good in terms of the production numbers at the Double A level lately.
Yeah, he looks. It's funny. I think, and I'm kind of glad we held Pat for the most part because it looks a lot like what the pre-draft report we put out was, I think, and I feel pretty good about it, which is he's going to hammer fastballs, he's going to hammer hangers, but well executed secondaries are going to give him trouble, and you're seeing that, right? Well executed secondaries are striking him out, but he is demolishing fastballs, he's demolishing hangers, and you're also seeing though in the changeups were specifically an area where I was like sliders and changeups because his path you can kind of just swing right over those changeups. Those have given him some issues, but again, you can make a career, especially at Coors, of just hammering fastballs, hammering hangers, and making good swing decisions. And I think that's the big part too that we've seen with him, where there's been a lot better pitch rec as he has just gained ABs. And I don't know. I mean, we saw him fully kicked off a top 100 list. We saw him, really fall quickly after being a guy that was, I think, put a little bit too high. So I felt like there was like a little bit of an overcorrection in the industry, and he's kind of somewhere right in the middle there, and we're seeing that now. But it's interesting. I think this is someone that. Again, we'll have probably some of the most dramatic home road splits you'll see, like in terms of cores guys. But that's fine. You can still make a really good living doing that. And we're seeing him get into the power, which is the most important thing. And he's elevating consistently. And that's all you really want to see from him.
And if you can mash at cores, man, you're going to have a career for a while for Colorado, probably. And that's probably, part of the reasoning behind that draft pick. It was a fit that made sense. And even with some of his deficient areas in his game, he can still be a very successful player, at least for sure within the Rockies organization. And then you hope beyond that as well.
Yeah, and the last thing too is like he's going to hammer lefties. Most stuff breaking in on him, it fits his path a little bit better. He's hitting 390 this year against lefties. So if you hit lefties really well on the road, enough to like bolster up those offensive numbers, then you kill at cores. You're going to be an asset that they haven't really had. They haven't even really had guys that kill at cores. So he'll be a good bat for them, and I
Right.
think he's proven that now. And Hartford's a tough place to hit, which I actually like about the progress of the Rockies system, is because I think sometimes you can get duped. Spokane's a little bit of a mixed bag, but still, it's lower levels. And then Albuquerque, throw the results out. It doesn't matter. Like Albuquerque's almost useless. It's like Coors Field, but with worse competition. So Hartford is like that real gauntlet to try to get through for some of these prospects. And I feel like you earn the opportunity to go crazy in Albuquerque. And the fact that he's doing this in Hartford, I think is really encouraging. Because if he was doing it in Albuquerque after not doing it in Hartford, I'd say, well, he's at altitude and it's not great pitching. But no, he's doing this in Hartford.
With what all the other kind of some of the college guys in this draft class have moved really quickly from last year. Do you think there's some degree of pressure for the Rockies to try and get him in the bigs next year, or is it still going to be? You would hope they would take their time a little bit, but I do feel like they might look around and say, "Oh my God, look at what Nick Kurtz is doing! Look what these other guys are doing! We got to get him up."
You'd think so, but when have the Rockies ever looked around at what other people are doing?
Fair.
But no, I think there is a little bit, but at the same time, I think they feel the pressure of getting this one right. I think when Zach Veen struggles, and they've clearly been apprehensive to give him like the proper runway. I think they're going to be careful with him, and take their time. But I do think they're going to give him a chance. Like if he goes nuts in spring training, is putting together good at bats against big league arms. I think he could be a guy that ends up, earning an opportunity. And yeah, because they look around at his peers and say, hey, they're already up there.
Yeah.
I'm also interested to see if he's an Arizona Fall League candidate, given the reps that he has lost, given the fact that he didn't start the year until, in regular season ball, really until the 21st of May. Because, if he shows out really well in the Arizona Fall League, which he should, but in terms of just the way he's going about his business and then has a really good spring training, who knows? That could expedite the process. And I'm glad that they're just putting him at first base for the most part now and just saying focus on mashing.
Yeah, I was checking right now. They haven't announced any there. Some teams have announced AFL guys already, but the Rockies haven't. So that'd be interesting to see if they made that decision because that would put him in position to be up next year, sooner than later if he really shows out, right?
Absolutely.
Next guy on the list is a new fun one, and this name is just elite. Miami Marlins organization, Fenwick Trimble.
Yeah.
That you're not going to find a better name than that. Maybe there's a couple, but that's a pretty good one for sure. Trimble has been really good, a fourth round pick of the Marlins last year, and has really come into his own. The past 16 games for Trimble, he's hitting 309, 441, 600. So that's an over 1,000 OPS. In that span, he's walking at a 13% clip, striking out at a 19% clip. We've both heard some pretty good things from people with around the Marlins just about the development of Trimble. What do you see from this guy?
Yeah, I know they like him a lot. And it makes sense. It's just a really well-rounded profile. And I think they were kind of tipped their hand at how much they like him with how much he was involved in like big league spring training, even and like getting reps in the games and things like that. But he's just a good player across the board. Where I'm interested in the defense, and admittedly, I haven't watched a ton of that side of things. I think it could be a good corner. Well, I'm curious just to see what it could look like if they give him a little bit more run in center. But you have a patient approach. You have above average exit velocity slightly, and you have solid contact rates. And you just pair those three things together. You have a high probability big leaguer, especially the fact that he could play a solid corner. And then we'll see, if he can progress in center field, but maybe even just being capable of playing there in a pinch. And reminder, Trimble's not doing this in high A. It's double A where he's really hitting his stride. And again, I look at the Southern League. If you're hitting in the Southern League, you're figuring things out, and I know you know that too. Watching the White Sox prospects, like if you're hitting your stride, if you're getting hot in the Southern League, you're feeling good. You found something. So I think that's definitely indicative of what Trimble's got going on here. And then also another guy that has just continued to raise the average launch angle as the year has progressed, which just tells me his mechanics are a little bit more optimized, a little bit more comfortable. And in a system where you have like kind of a wide range of prospect archetypes, I feel like Trimble is one of the most well rounded.
Yeah, no, he definitely seems like a very well-rounded player, and I've heard good things about the center field potential. Actually, I think I've heard from a buddy down there who that thinks he could stick in center field potentially if that is the option. And at the least, right, if you have a fourth outfielder who you know can play center off the bench, that's a good spot to be in. And you're exactly right about the Southern League. That's my personal indicator every time I watch a White Sox prospect of like, are they finding it or not? Is whether they get to the Southern League and they hit or not. Because you see guys at that level really tail off, and then
Oh,
you see guys take that, continual. If you're maintaining similar numbers or even getting close to your numbers from high A when you get to the Southern League, you're probably in a pretty good spot.
I mean, ask Jacob Marcy, man. I think he might tell you it's harder than Major League Baseball. It's crazy. It's funny. I think it's also one of those things where with the Southern League, I'll also be a little bit more patient, right? Like if a
Yeah.
guy's struggling, all right, let's give him some time here. Let's see what it looks like and give him some time to completely adjust. But I mean, legitimately, this time last year, Jacob Marcy was struggling in the Southern League, and here he is as the Barry Bonds in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. So it's good to see him go in that direction. But the next guy up is another double A guy. I got a bunch of double A hitters today. Esmerlyn Valdez of the Pirates organization, 21-year-old international signing from the Dominican Republic. Another guy who, you talk about this jump to the next level. He was tearing up high A, had a slow start to double A. Now it seems like at 21 years old, he's really finding his groove in double A. The past 10 games, he's hitting 405 in those games, 4 home runs in the past 10. The WRC plus in that range is 239. He's also striking out a little at a reasonable clip. He doesn't seem like he's having problems there since settling into Double A. What do you know about on Valdez and just where he's made this jump now?
He hits the living crap out of the ball. They got some thumpers in that Pirates system all of a sudden, which is funny. But you know, you look at the EVs this year, man. I mean, a 90th percentile for Valdez of 108 miles per hour. And he's patient. And I think that's been the big part for him as he's gotten acclimated to double, or excuse me, to double A has just been pitch selection, not expanding on the spin, and just settling in a little bit more in that regard. And you look at the last 30 games, man, like that chase rate's gone below 20%, but the chase rate on sliders is 15%. So it's just much better at recognizing that spin, which when you hammer fastballs and you hit the ball hard consistently, and the one question is kind of swing and miss, the hit tool, is it fringy? The best way to bolster a fringy hit tool is really good swing decisions. And it seems like that's been a huge leap for him, over the last couple months. And I think that's a huge factor for him here as a guy that, is still probably going to skew towards the three true outcomes. But when it's potentially plus power uh, and enough bat to ball, that approach can really be something that pushes him over the top. So this is a fun prospect that I think Pirates fans should be excited about. And you mentioned like the stretch of late. This is I'll just take you through the hit totals of the last like handful of games.
Yeah.
3 hits and a homer, 2 hits and two hits, both were homers. 3 hits and a homer, 2 hits, 2 hits.
Yeah.
He's just been on another level.
It's a crazy heater. It's 26 homers on the year. So you talk about that raw power. And then since double A, it's the walk rate's up to 13%, right? So like you said, the patience there with that power is a great recipe. One guy, this is an interesting episode for us to do, probably a whole episode sometime entering the offseason. He's Rule 5 eligible this year, which is interesting because they signed him at a very young age. I feel like that's a guy if you're the Pirates, yeah, he might not be quite big league ready, but I would have to think they're protecting a guy that's putting up these type of numbers and is already in double A.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially when we saw like Davis and De Los Santos get picked. Like this is a archetype that I think would translate a lot more easily. And another guy that you could shelter. And if you wanted to take him in that draft and just have him be a lefty platoon guy, he's hitting 343 with an 1107 OPS against left-handed pitching this year. He will be
Right.
added to the 40 without a doubt.
Could have a shot to make it to Pittsburgh sometime late next season, potentially, the way he's trending right now.
Especially if he's already on the 40, no doubt.
Exactly. Next guy up is Aidan Smith of the Rays organization. Aidan Smith is a funny prospect because he got a lot of buzz last year, and that he was in part of one of those. Which trade was that? I'm trying to remember. It's one of the Rays, the Mariners trade, but I forgot which player it was. Oh, that's gonna bother me. But he has been a guy that's trended up. It's taken him a little bit to really get going. He's been in high A all season this year, and it's been moderate numbers, but of late he's really trending the right way. His last 16 games, it's a 945 OPS. The strikeout rate is still high for Smith, but this is a really good athlete who still kind of is coming into his own as an offensive player and has looked much better lately.
Yeah, he's a very polarizing prospect. And it's interesting. By the way, you know who he was traded for? Mariners draftee.
We do. Yeah, I do, and it's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm not going to get it.
It's
That's
gonna hit you by the time I'm
crazy.
done with this
It definitely
breakdown
is.
here. But the thing with him that's really interesting is you'll see him hit the ball 112 miles per hour, and you'll see him absolutely fly and cover crazy ground and make grabs in center field, and you'll see him steal a ton of bags. But it's kind of in these flashes, and you're not seeing it as consistently. And I think that's part of the reason why he's polarizing is I think some scouts and evaluators are probably catching him for a series and they see him and he just doesn't do those things as much maybe in that stretch and you're like, but then others see him and he has that stretch where he's doing it and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy could be a star. And maybe he's somewhere in the middle with flashes of more, but I will be patient on a player like this because of the power speed combo and the defensive ability in center field. I think it's too rare to find that kind of skill set. That said, he has been a little bit of an afterthought this year, just with the way that he has struggled, at least just out of the gate. So seeing him settle in of late, I think has been huge, and to see him sprint across the finish line, I think is important. Also, an Arizona Fall League candidate for me. He didn't miss any reps. I just think he's a guy that just fits the bill of more reps at where he's at in his development. But it's been nice to see him start to settle in here. The thing is, though, it's just a lot of whiff, and that's the thing that I'm just continuing to monitor. It's 72% zone contact and like 65% overall contact for the most part this year. So that's gonna have to get better. But a guy with those tools, you'll be patient on.
Yeah. Uh, Aidan Smith and Brody Hopkins for Randy Rosarena. That
Yep,
can't
there you go.
him to me eventually. What a win-win, honestly. Brody Hopkins and Aidan Smith as the development project. Both those guys are really fun guys to keep an eye on. And then you've got Randy, who obviously is mashing for the Mariners. But yeah, it's a fun archetype there. I think it's someone who you want to keep an eye on because you see those amazing flashes. And the past 2 weeks have been an example of that.
100%.
The next guy is the only 2025 pick on this heat sheet because not a ton of guys I've played a ton of games or have done a ton. This was just an interesting one when I was looking through the numbers because some of these numbers are crazy. Nolan Schubart of the Guardians organization was their third round pick this July. First base, right field, kind of, massive power bat, Oklahoma State guy. The raw power is off the charts. That was who he was in college. It's who he is now. I think he put up he had like 60 something homers in his college, 3 years of college at Oklahoma State. His first 12 professional games, it's a 202 WRC plus, and then it's a 23% walk rate, but a 32% strikeout rate. Talk about three true outcome, right? I think that is the goal here, and he's looked good out of the gate, though. He's matching.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how much contact he can make it above low A, but yeah, he's hitting the living crap out of the ball. So that is a interesting just name to monitor, just given how hard he hits the ball. Like in those 12 games, he's already hit a ball 112 miles per hour. He's hit another one like 111, and I mean some just no doubt laser beam homers. So uh, interesting to watch from that regard. Yeah, he's gonna need to make more contact. It is nice to see him be this patient though out of the gate, and yeah, it's gonna be three true outcome, but if it's plus plus raw power, he's going to be worth the patience of seeing whether he can make enough contact.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought it was interesting, just because the power is so good. And that's who he was in college, and that's why that's a guy you're not gonna see go in the first round usually because there is a lot of concern there with the whiff, with the ability to actually hit the ball enough. But you're gonna see him still go decently high in the draft because you look at that power upside and you can't help but dream on it a little bit.
I mean, he hit a ball this collegiate season 115 miles per hour, 460 feet. I understand that's with metal, but like that's insane.
Silly. Yeah. So I think I got to monitor as he goes up, but I thought it was a pretty crazy stat line from his first 12 professional games there in single A. The
I was gonna say, I was thinking about who else has been able to put up like 150. That's like Cags. Was it
Yeah.
exceeding that? I, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's not a lot of guys, even with metal, that are pushing north of a 115 like that. And like it maybe one offs, but I'm looking right now,
Right?
like we got a handful. So of like 113s, 112s. And then again, right away with Wood, 111, 112. There's some legit power there.
Yeah, definitely some power. Talk about a guy with some power. Alfredo Duno of
Mhm.
the Cincinnati Reds organization. You put up a good tweet on him this week. This guy's raking. He's next up in this, this next little lineage of Reds hitting prospects from South Stewart down. He has been really good. This whole season, honestly, he's been really good. It's been 110 games in single A for him, and frankly, he probably should get a high A promotion, but it's already the season's ending at this point. But he has been really good lately. The past handful of the last few games, it's tapered off a little, but generally just the past month from him in August, it has been really impressive across the board for Duno. What are some of the things with him that you think maybe are kind of still holding him back a little from the next level, or were holding them back? Because I mean, he's walked double the amount he's struck out in the past month. He's hitting for power, he's hitting for contact, like everything in the numbers. It's a 1200 OPS since the beginning of August.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's also lost a lot of reps. He was hurt. I think each of the last two seasons. So maybe just wanting to take it slow with him in general, and have him, just in a spot where he's comfortable, just to finish through the year, I guess. But he's definitely too good for low A. It's funny though. I'm not complaining. I'm probably going to go see him and Rainiel Rodriguez
Mm.
tonight. So that part will be cool. But yeah, it seems like he's just too comfortable for this level. You look at the last 30 games, he's running a chase rate of 15%. He's going to swing and miss in the zone, but then he becomes so much more effective in battling with two strikes. Like he's striking out 11% of the time in his last 30 games, despite only having a 71% contact rate. So like that's where it's just okay. He needs to go be challenged at another level. He's also just a freak athlete for a guy of his build, 6'3", 250, but he's turning in like above average run times to first base. He looks
Crazy.
like he could be a good defender, but behind the dish. Like I see the tools to be a really solid defender. And I was a little bit slow coming around on him when he was just banged up and he just didn't catch that much in the beginning. And I looked at the build and the swing mechanics. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be tough. He has cleaned up the mechanics so quickly because he's such a good athlete. And you're seeing him just be really effective on both sides of the ball. But when you can't get him to expand, again, it's a 21% walk rate in his last 30 games. Like he's got to be getting bored out there. It looks like a guy that's like too good for a mid-major college level and just barely getting pitched to. So I think he should get a push up soon, but like, is it just to play a handful of games? Like, what's the point? Or do they want him to just play postseason games potentially down with Daytona? We'll see. But there's no doubting that he's been one of the best players in low A, period.
Yeah, I mean at this point it's what, five more games in the high A season, so there probably isn't too much of a point to
Yeah, I
it.
think they'd rather him just play the playoffs and do that.
Yeah, but it's still for a 19-year-old, it's still definitely a bat to dream on there, and it's crazy that the above average run times, you just blew my mind a little bit there because I
Insane.
never
Insane.
expected that from his
Like
build, and
I
yeah.
want to see him like as a running back, like hand him off the ball, short yardage, just run downhill. But like he moves, dude. He really
Yeah.
moves.
Crazy. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you completely perfectly teed up the next guy.
Wasn't.
Rainiel Rodriguez is the next guy of the Cardinals organization, another catching prospect who is really just tearing it up. 18 years old, not even 19 until January of this coming year. 2007, that looks kind of crazy to me. But this is a guy who has really been impressive in the Cardinals organization. In his past 20 games, he is slashing 295, 409, 615. That's over 1,000 OPS in that span. He doesn't strike out a ton. It's 16% in that range. He's walking at a good clip, and is just really young. I mean, he started the year in the complex and then quickly got pushed to single A because it was so impressive.
Yeah, another guy that I probably moved a little slow on, but he was more of like, and I think there's more defensive questions with him, but offensively, he's ahead of where Duno was a year ago, and he's a year younger. It's amazing. I mean, in terms of how simple the swing is and how advanced he is in that regard, where it's compact and efficient to the ball, minimal moving parts, yet he's able to elevate to the pull side as well as any young hitter you're going to see. And so that part is what really, I mean, this guy's got 20 home runs in 78 games between the complex and low A. And it's just because he's air pulling at a ridiculous clip, and making good swing decisions. And at first, I was a little bit skeptical just because I thought it looked at the body, and then I wondered about the defense a little bit. And I'm like, am I just looking at like a guy that's going to progress to end up being like a Jesus Aguilar type if he doesn't stick behind the dish. But you're
Yeah.
seeing, I think he's just got way more ability to air pull, and already flashing more impact than I would have expected. So it's been really amazing. I mean, this guy's already hit a ball 113 this year, and I don't know if that was a hot reading, but like I, I don't think it was, because you've seen him pop some other, EVs about around 109, 110. So I don't think it's crazy. 111, I think, backside. So this is way more juice than I was expecting, and it's a far cry even from the video I saw like at the DSL. So he's made it. I don't know if there's been a prospect that's made a bigger leap this year than Rainiel Rodriguez, and if the defense can even just be fringy, the big body type, defenders, it's really hard to project the catcher defense there. But at this point, and the reason why I think he should be a top 100 prospect and why it's probably a miss by us is that even if he isn't a catcher, the bat is so good for 18 that he should probably be a top 100 prospect just on the bat alone, even if he wasn't, even if we knew we were moving him off of the catching position.
Yeah, and he's DH'd a decent amount, but he's still catching, at least 2 of 3 games he plays, right? He's caught 43 games in single A and he's DH 16. So he's still getting a lot of reps there. And obviously there's still time for him to kind of see if he can be a catcher, and the bat is gonna carry, it sounds like, regardless.
Yeah, that's the big part, is the bat's going to carry.
Yeah, definitely. All right, time for some pitchers. Starting with the Milwaukee Brewers organization, and there is so many players to like in that organization. Another guy you mentioned recently, Jaron DeBerry, is an interesting name who I didn't know much about till recently. I saw some stuff on him of late, and it's been really good lately for him. He's been in Double A for a while now. He started the season in Single A, made his way to High A, and the numbers weren't great in High A,
Yeah.
but then he gets to Double A, and he's been much better of late in Double A. Tell me a little bit about Barry. And this is a guy who, his last 3 starts have been 1 run, no runs, 1 run in all those games. Even before that, it was 3 runs, 0, 1 run before that. So it's five straight starts of very quality outings for DeBerry.
Yeah, the pitching lab in Milwaukee, man, or I guess just throughout the system, just continues to shine here. I mean, this is a guy that's throwing harder as the year has progressed, and really what is his first full pro season out of Dallas Baptist as a 2024 draft pick. DeBerry, man, I mean, 6'5", like kind of slender man type of build. So you wonder if there's even more in there, but moves so athletically on the mound. And you look at the sweeper. That's the pitch that really stands out to me. It's wipeout, and then the fastball going from 91 to 93 to now more 92 to 95. You're seeing, I think, a little bit more life and effectiveness on both heaters. He's got a four seamer and a sinker that whole throw. So having those two fastballs ticking up, having the sweeper also a little bit harder, that pitch has just been ridiculous. His last 6 starts, opponents are 3 for 26 against it. And then he's got a regular slider off of that. He's got a curveball that he'll mix in and a changeup. So he's got this kitchen sink approach with a free and easy delivery, with better execution as the years progressed, and velocity that's ticked up. And it's easy to see how he's pitching the best that he has pitched at the most challenging level that he has faced. And there's a specific start against Chattanooga where he goes 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 9 Ks. And it's like, he wasn't doing anything near that early
No.
in the year, and they weren't even really letting him go beyond 5 innings at High A. And honestly, I don't even know if it was a matter of letting him. He just wasn't efficient enough to do it. And now he did that in 93 pitches. And the outing before that, he cruised through 5 innings and 70 pitches. So he's been way more effective as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought was really interesting, that he has, 3 of his first 5 outings in Double A have been 6+ innings, and good starts too, not just innings that he's eating, but good quality starts. So it's crazy to see the amount of tick up from the next level for him, but it definitely looks encouraging.
Yep.
The next two are a duo here because they were in the same trade this trade deadline about a month ago. Mitch Bratt and David Hagaman of the Diamondbacks organization, both part of that Merrill Kelly trade. And the two of them have been good already, but have really ticked up even since that trade, which is interesting to see. Mitch Bratt, his 5 starts in Double A since the trade, 3.42 ERA, but 37 strikeouts across 26 and a third. And then Hagaman has made 4 starts in High A since that trade, trade at, he's a pretty young prospect, just getting his first taste of high A now. And high A for him, it's 4 starts, 17 and a third, at a 2.6 ERA, and a bunch of strikeouts for him in that span as well. Both these guys look like they're taking a step forward as a really pretty good trade haul there for what looks like to be from Arizona.
Yeah, it's funny, that we knew that they were going to target a ton of pitching at this deadline, and the Rangers sneakily had a lot to part with. And I think when you look at what Bratt brings to the table specifically, it's a guy that I think is just always going to outpitch what the stuff may imply. And I think we've seen that with just what he's been able to do, especially at the double A level. Like, it's a fastball that's just sitting 90 miles per hour, but for the most part, he's able to still execute it enough, and he's able to create enough deception to turn in good results. And it's funny because I think both him and Cole Drake, who was also acquired, by the Diamondbacks, have been pretty underrated in that Ranger system. But with Bratt, like, it's a fastball that's average 92, yet he's getting 36% chase. He's getting 18% swinging strike rate on it, and an end zone whiff rate of 26%, which is wild to me. I'm looking at it and saying, okay, like, what is it about this fastball that is just so deceptive for hitters? And I can't totally figure it out. Like, he hides the ball pretty well. Like, that's one part of it. But I really don't know what Brad is necessarily doing that's creating this huge whiff numbers, but he kind of just jumps at you, hides the ball, and creates sneaky. I think it's a little bit of cut ride that helps it. But for the most part, it's nothing that jumps off the page. Sometimes you just don't have to overthink it. He's got that going for him. And then the other side is he's just executing as well as ever. It's a 4% walk rate on the year for Mitch Bratt. And you look at the assortment of pitches, he'll go fastball, slider, curveball, sweeper, changeup, cutter, and all of it. Like, the combined strike rate this year is 69% for him. So it's just great command, some deception built in, and I think that's why he's going to end up becoming, a back end starter, despite maybe people not really expecting him to be able to do that with the stuff, or like what the stuff would imply.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are two good gets for Arizona. They need to stockpile arms, right? You're going to keep stockpiling and seeing what you can get, and both of them are outperforming, maybe outperforming to an extent. But I think if either of them can become decent big leaguers, you traded a rental Merrill Kelly that meant nothing to Arizona for three pitchers, including Cole Drake, that could all potentially be part of the future in Arizona.
Yeah, and Hagaman kind of seemed like the throw in to a degree.
Right.
Maybe Bratt was to some, but again, with Bratt's results, 25% K minus BB, it's hard to call him a throw in. The Diamondbacks sent Hagaman straight to high A after the trade, and to have this hot streak through a promotion, I think is really encouraging. And fastball is average 94, the slider is nasty, and the changeup has been a really good pitch for him. So you've got a fastball in the mid 90s with a little bit more standard characteristics, but then a pair of really good secondaries that have performed really well. And you look at a 6'4", 215 build, and you're like, okay, well, why can't that guy be a back end starter? So
Yeah.
I think given the fact that teams were not parting with a ton clearly at this deadline in general, I thought the Diamondbacks did a pretty good job of creating some org depth pitching wise.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing considering there wasn't really any, there wasn't a
No,
ton of high-end pitchers moved, right? It wasn't like you're seeing high-end pitching at big league or minor league level that was moved at this deadline. So getting a couple pieces that you like there is good.
100%. And before we move to the next guy too, the last time out, 4 no-hit innings for Hagaman. And that in a new org to make that adjustment, his last 9 innings, he has struck out 15, walked one, and allowed 1 hit. Like, it's just, I can't emphasize that enough. Like, that, it's just crazy, crazy results for a guy that just got drafted and then traded, and had to go to a new org there. So, a couple more pitchers here, but before that, a break.
Next up is a Dodgers prospect, and stop me if you've heard this before, but the Dodgers might have swooped in and got a pretty decent pitching prospect at the deadline. Adam Serwinowski,
Yeah.
formerly of the Reds, was traded to Tampa in the Zach Little trade, and then the next day flipped to the Dodgers in the Hunter Fiducia trade. That's an interesting little whatever happened there at the deadline. And this guy ends up with the Dodgers organization. And since getting to the Dodgers organization, it has been really, really good. And it was already a pretty good season overall. But in his first 5 starts with the Dodgers, it's a 1.55 ERA across 29 innings with 37 strikeouts in that span. He was already having a pretty decent year for Cincinnati, but now it looks like a different level for the Dodgers here.
I mean, it's crazy because nothing is like drastically changed or anything when it comes to pitch usage or things like that. But he's clearly just hit another level of confidence since joining. I mean, his first start in New York, he goes 6 1/3, shutout, one hit, 9 Ks. Command is and has been the big question for him. And last time out, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run. It came on a solo shot, no walks, and 12 strikeouts. So, I mean, if he starts to string together more outings like that, you're going to start to see a lot of hype around him. But it's a funky delivery. It's a fastball that sits really close to right around the mid 90s, and a nasty slider from that delivery that plays up. And it just seems like since he's joined the Dodgers org, they've kind of just said, go heavy on the fastball. He's seen his fastball usage actually go up a little bit, but he's dominating in the zone with it. So yeah, I think when you're developing him long term, you're going to want to see that changeup come along a little bit further, and you probably want to see him cut down from a 65% fastball usage. But the fact that in 4 or 5 starts he is throwing that fastball 65% of the time essentially, and just dominating hitters with it, I think is really encouraging. He's going to be 21 years old until June of next year. And I mean, I was surprised even at the time of the deal. I said, wow, they got Serwinowski, and fits the bill of kind of what the Dodgers like to attack.
And that was just a funny secondary trade there that ended up getting into the Dodgers. And I think they probably saw him get moved once and were like, oh, let's just jump on this opportunity if we can. So definitely a guy that could continue to trend up for the Dodgers. I would have to think.
Yeah, he fits the bill. But they've had their guys, their stuffy
Yeah,
guys that don't quite throw enough strikes. But I think Serwinowski's already showing me, like compare him to like a Maddox Bruns or whatever. Like
right.
Serwinowski's already showing the ability to throw more strikes than I think those guys have. And but that's going to just be the number one thing to monitor.
Yeah, definitely. Welcome back, Tugboat. We haven't talked about Matt Wilkinson of the Guardians organization in a little while, and I'm really curious what you've seen or what you see in the numbers here from Wilkinson, because he has had a rough season, honestly. I mean, last year he had this meteor, crazy rise in the minor league world, very impressive. This year he's been in high A all season, and it's been definitely some ups and downs. But the past 5 starts for Tugboat at the high A level has been much better of late. You're seeing him kind of trend the right direction now, 23 and 2/3 in his last 5 at a 1.14 ERA, 25 strikeouts, 5 walks in that span for Wilkinson.
Yeah, he's that got that upshoot fastball. That's what it's all about with him and the way he hides the ball. And it's just about throwing that pitch for a strike. And this year the command kind of took a bit of a step back. And when you look at the first 18 or so starts, overall strike rate of 59%, fastball strike rate was about 63%. And then you look at the last 5 or so, fastball strike rate 73%, the overall strike rate 65%. It's going to make a big difference. So
Yeah,
I think it's just been as simple as filling up the zone. And the fact that he at 90 miles per hour can throw his fastball 55% of the time
crazy.
and just get through high A lineups is amazing. That's why I love him. I don't know how it's going to work at the highest level or anything, but he just seems to create deception and hide the ball well. And but to be one of those guys you got to execute, hasn't been executing, and now all of a sudden he's doing that, and you see the difference.
Yeah, definitely. It's been good to see him get in the zone more. I think that is the thing. I'm curious to see how it plays up because I'm not sure how you can like envision this at the higher levels, right? Like it's hard to picture a guy who's 90 and that there's not necessarily, an outlier secondary for him. I think the slider's good, but you're not seeing a guy that's going to overwhelm hitters at all. So the command's going to have to be really good for him to continue to rise up the ranks, right?
Yeah, I think especially because
Yeah.
it's a changeup strike rate of like 35%. The slider is not that good. It's really amazing what he does, and I want it to work so badly. But hopefully he can ride this little hot streak.
Yeah, definitely. The next guy is of the White Sox organization, Christian Oppor. This is someone I've been watching carefully all season go from, a we'll see prospect into a borderline top 10 prospect in the White Sox system. It's pretty insane what Opper's been doing. Of late, it's been really figured out. He's figured out high A. He dominated single A early in the season, gets to high A, definitely had an adjustment period there. But his last handful of starts, he's allowed 2 or less runs in, I think, like 10 straight high A starts in terms of just what he's done recently. Of late, it's been, he's been getting limited in terms of his innings by the White Sox, but it's still, 5 innings of shutout balls, 6 strikeouts. strikeouts, 4 innings of shutout ball, 5 strikeouts, 4 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. So it's been very good. I want to read you this chart that I got from just some White Sox information here. Oppor, when he came into the organization, was sitting 91 and topping at 94.7. This season, in this past month, he is sitting 96, topping at 100.4. It's an insane velo jump for Oppor, and that's the biggest thing. The sweeper also very impressive, but the velo jump and what he's been doing with his fastball, it's crazy to see from this time last year, even the beginning of the year till now.
And it's really helped the changeup too, where now that pitch is just dominating.
Yep.
And I mean, huge swinging strike numbers both in the zone and just generally. And yeah, I mean, to make that kind of leap as a left-handed pitcher with the fastball, it's going to bode well. And then having that changeup off of it, I'm interested to see what how the third pitch develops. I know that sweeper, like it has some good traits, but it's just not there from a strike perspective. But he has time to figure that out because he's sitting mid to upper 90s. And I also want to see if he can hold that. Like there was one outing on the 20th where he averaged 97.3 in 70 pitches. The next time out it was like 95.6, and the next time out it was like 95.3. But again, this is a huge uptick, and he's also throwing more innings than ever. So I can understand why they're managing him. But if he's able to sit and hold in the 95 range with that changeup, like it's a guy that's gonna have a lot of I think buzz around him as the year progresses or as we go into next year. And then the command in general. Like I think the underlying, you look at the strike rate on the fastball and the changeup, it's good. I think the only reason why his walk rate's kind of high seems like he's been insistent on continuing to throw a sweeper that he can't really locate that much, which is fine. Who cares? Yeah, you're trying to develop as a pitcher right now. But he's also cut that walk rate, I think, a little bit as the years progressed. And again, it feels like he's just gotten better and better and better every time you check in. And I'm sure the White Sox brass has to be really excited about what he's done this year.
Yeah, what is the strike rate on that sweeper? Because I've seen at times like it looks gross, but it is inconsistent. Where is it low?
45% on the year.
Yeah.
Last 10 starts, it's up to 50%. So it's
Better.
just one, but he's throwing it
No,
to just
he's throwing it a
17%
lot.
of the time.
He's throwing it a lot because it can be a good pitch. And if you can get that arsenal to be those three with the way the fastball's playing up, the way the changeup has been lately, then you have a really fun 3 pitch mix from the left side. I just think why not keep throwing it, right? I kind of
Dude,
support that actually.
I can promise you he'll dominate. He would dominate lineups through 5 innings, just fastball
Right.
changeup with the fastball touching 100. And I think he knows that. So being insistent on throwing that is great. Because again, you look at the fastball changeup strike rate, 67%. So that's there. It's not like he has major command issues. I think he's clearly a pronator.
Yeah.
And so it'll just be interesting to see if he can find some comfort, with that supination throw.
Right.
But this is a great prospect at 21 years old, and I know a guy you've been excited about for a while. He started to probably generate the buzz in spring training, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw him in the spring. I talked to him this spring, and it was like clear that he was a different version of himself. He basically spent all of last year at the complex just reworking his mechanics, getting his body right. He dealt with a little injury. Like it was a very delayed start to his professional career. In spring training, you saw this stuff was looking better, and he sounded like he was like healthy. He had changed some things with his motion, and he was in his element. And then 3 starts into his single A career, it was like, okay, this is an entirely different,
Yeah.
pitcher than what we
I
saw.
mean, it
And
helps when you open up 4 2/3, no
yeah,
hit, 10
yeah,
Ks.
it was ridiculous. It was like immediately, it was like, okay, everything I thought in spring training is looking like it's going to be accurate potentially. And now you've got a guy who going into next season could be in double A. And then it's just about finding more command with that third pitch and overall.
It's exciting.
Definitely. Next guy up is Josh Bostick of the Giants organization. He was a small school college draft pick in 2023. Someone I actually kind of had on my radar for a heat sheet a little while back because it's been, up and down this season, but in general, it's been much better lately. The last 5 starts from Bostick have been encouraging. The strikeout numbers are like gaudy. Like he has some games where, there was a game on August 12th where he had 6 innings of 1 run, 14 strikeout ball. There was another start earlier in the season that was 7 innings of no run, 12 strikeout. It is some really, really huge performances mixed in with some rough ones. But I'm curious what you've got on Bostick and his development this season.
This 2-point breaking ball is disgusting at like 82, 83 miles per hour. And I imagine when those 14 strikeout outings, probably just ripping those.
Yeah.
But the fastball, he's had outings. He's had some fluctuations this year. He's had outings where he's averaging closer to the mid 90s. But I think what's really encouraging about Bostick is You look at the first 10 starts of the year, fastball average about 92.6. You look at the last 10 starts, he's averaging 94. So uptick in velo, that's really helped just the four seamer play better. And then you've got this wicked break, a two plane slider. I don't even know. Just working off of that, that has just been downright dominant. And then he mixes in a changeup that's a solid pitch. Like this is an interesting pitch mix here. And the changeup looks like it could be a fine third pitch. I want to see how that all plays at Double A, given that he's going to be 24 years old in October and pitching at the high level. But when you see a guy throwing harder as the year progressed and what's kind of been a quote unquote breakout year for him, that's always going to be encouraging. And then you see that breaking ball and say, okay, well, that's a bread and butter pitch that can maybe alone help him fill a big league role. Because imagine in one inning spurts, if he's a reliever, he's going to tick closer to 96, hopefully. And then the fact that he can mix in a changeup, like this is we did the Giant system, probably a guy that should have been mentioned. That is just done a really good job this year of continuing to progress in the right direction. The surface level numbers weren't great, probably as of a few weeks ago, but now with the way he's pitched over the last couple weeks, he's got that ERA down to 3.90. And 132 strikeouts and 113 innings is pretty good.
And you mentioned it with the breaking ball. That's why he kind of jumped out to me as like at least you could get a decent big league reliever out of this, probably, right? Like if you give him a
Yeah.
start and if it doesn't quite come together as a starter, you could make him a breaking ball heavy reliever by 2027 and he could play a role in the bullpen.
If you asked me in April, I probably would have said, I don't know. Your best course of action may just be back end rotation starter because he was averaging
Right.
92 miles per hour through his first few starts. But now you ask me as we hit September 3rd and I look at his last start where he averaged 95 on the fastball and I say, yeah, you pair that with that breaking ball and yeah, it's going to play in the bullpen. So they've got, I think they've got a guy that can fill a big league role here for sure. And again, probably a miss. Has been burned by the long ball in Eugene. I don't have park factor in front of me right now to reference, but that is something to monitor. But still, it's been really impressive from him.
Yeah, definitely. Last guy up on the heat sheet this week is, the Padres decided to move almost everyone in their farm system, right? They traded a lot of guys, and one of the guys they held on to is someone that had been trending kind of the wrong direction to start the season, and that's last year's first round pick, Kash Mayfield. He hadn't thrown a lot of innings. He hadn't been the most effective when he had been throwing innings, but last five starts for Kash Mayfield, at least four innings in all five of those starts. So he's getting his innings back up. It's a 1.96 ERA across those five starts with 31 strikeouts in 23 innings. What is the shift here that's getting Mayfield back to some of the serious excitement we had for him at the end, last season going into this year?
Yeah, so what I will say is, from what I understand, it wasn't due to a lack of trying that Cash Mayfield was not traded. But yeah, I think there was some concern about the velo, a little bit of a shoulder issue, to start the year. But I think the velo coming back a little bit, like there were some outings where he was looking up at 90 miles per hour, and then I think of late it's been more 92s, more 93s. And when you have the deception that he has as a lefty, and then you have, I think, a pair of secondaries that look like they can be really solid, especially that changeup. Um, there's a lot to like. I think the fastball changeup cadence in the beginning, especially with the fastball like sitting closer to 89, 90 miles per hour, was a little bit easier for hitters to stay on. Now with the fastball a little bit harder, and now a slider that he's gained a lot of confidence in. Now I don't think it's a great pitch yet, but he's throwing it for a strike, and it's just another look that he was able to give to kind of take these hitters off of the fastball changeup cadence. It's really made that changeup better, and he has dominated with that changeup. You look at the last 10 starts, opponents are 4 for 34 without an extra base hit against that changeup. And I think it's helping the fastball play up a little bit more. But yeah, it seemed like a shoulder issue kind of slowed his start to the year and has held the velo back a little bit. Definitely want to see that velo tick closer to 92, 93 more consistently. But he does now all of a sudden kind of look more the part of a pitchability lefty. But I think in the early going this year, just was kind of walking guys a little bit more than you wanted to see and things like that. But he's limited damage. It's 2 home runs and 18 starts now for Mayfield. And I think overall, in what was kind of a year where he did slow some of the hype and excitement, I think he's built on it pretty nicely. Another reminder too, like he was averaging 89, 90, 91 in 1 to 2 3 inning spurts when they were kind of just trying to protect him. And now he's been stretched back out to 5 innings each of the last each of the last three starts, and that velo's been holding it 91, 92, 93 more with the good results. So I think Padres fans should be encouraged big time with just the way that Mayfield is sprinting through the finish line here.
Yeah, that was my biggest note, was that the innings have ticked up. The velo looks like it's in a decent spot comparatively. And again, like this is, the Padres have cleared out that farm system. So you want to see some guys tick the right direction to finish out the year and going into the offseason. They're obviously kind of always one of the teams that's willing to buy and trade prospects. So it helps when you have internal guys that do take that step forward.
100%. And I mean, they need anybody who can show that he can potentially fill a role for them sooner rather than later. And I'm sure it's a guy that, as long as he's throwing strikes and missing enough bats, they're going to move him probably pretty quickly. So I'm interested to just see what they do going into next year, and how aggressive they'll be with Mayfield in general. But yeah, there's not much left to that Padres system. We're about to be updating all the farm systems. I'm almost done with the Astros, which it's
Finally.
been it's been a grind. But then I'm excited to update all these team top prospect lists, and I'm very interested to see what the Padres is going to look like as we just kind of rank out the remnants there. But any final thoughts on the heat sheet?
That's what I got. It was a fun list. This is always a good thing to do. We're doing it at least every other week, trying to do most weeks, and then when we don't do it, in a given week, we're gonna have a reason to do a different episode. So it's been cool, and then it's gonna be fun here to look at maybe in the next couple weeks we're gonna be able to do like a almost a season look backs and stuff like that, because single A and high A are done here at the end of this week, and then double A is only a week or two behind. So we're almost approaching the end of minor league season, which is kind of crazy.
It went by quick, and I'm excited to get those AFL rosters.
Yeah.
We'll be able to talk about that. We could probably do a little bit of a recap on just how you know the 2025 draftees who did debut, how they did, and what that all looked like. And then yeah, I'll give you guys some of my feedback and live looks from Rainiel Rodriguez and Alfredo Duno. Also going to see Sheng-En Lin throw the two-way from the Reds, who really should just pitch. I think he is really just pitching now. So excited to see that. So yeah, keep an eye out for my Twitter and everything on that front. And then also, before we wrap up, the Sports Card CEO, which is the official sports card podcast of Just Baseball, just had Connor Griffin on. So check that out. They do an awesome job of one, letting you know how to navigate the hobby, but two, just talking to players who happen to be interested in and enjoy collecting. So I think that's going to be something that you all will enjoy. So check out that podcast, which is a part of our network. As always, thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you later this week. We'll be talking Orioles top prospects.